Prologue. The first thing Noah said when he walked into my hospital room was not, "Are you okay?" It was, "Emily, I know I messed up, but we can fix this." For a few seconds, I wondered whether the pain medication had made his confidence sound crueler than it was. My head throbbed beneath the bandage near my hairline. A brace held my wrist still, and every breath pulled sharply against my cracked ribs. The fluorescent lights were too bright, and the room smelled of disinfectant, damp coats, and the rain that had followed us in from the highway. Noah stood just inside the doorway in the dark blue shirt he had worn to Olivia's birthday party. He looked shaken. His hair was windblown, his face pale, and his eyes kept moving over the bruises spreading across my shoulder. But he did not look like a man who understood that he had already lost me. He looked like a man who believed he had arrived late to an argument and could still talk his way out of it. Ash rose from the chair beside my bed. He had been there for hours. He had found my wrecked car at the intersection, followed the ambulance, spoken to the nurses when I could not remember my insurance information, called my mother, and held a cup of water near my mouth because my hands would not stop shaking. Noah glanced at him and then came closer to me. "I should have come sooner," he said. "I know that. I misunderstood what was happening. But you are going to be okay, and once we get you home, we can sit down and fix this." Home. He said the word, as if the apartment where I had learned to question every feeling was still waiting for me exactly as I had left it. I looked at him and forced my voice to remain steady. "I called you from the car," I said. "I told you a truck hit me. I told you I was bleeding and scared, and you did not believe me." Noah flinched. "I thought you were panicking. Things between us have been tense, and the timing." "The timing," my throat tightened. "You thought I staged a car accident because I wanted you to leave Olivia's party." "I made a mistake," he insisted. "A terrible one. I am here now. That has to count for something." Ash stepped forward. "No," he said. "What you did is not something a loving man gets to dismiss as bad timing. The woman you planned to marry called you hurt and terrified. You made her prove she was injured before you decided she deserved your concern. That is unacceptable." Noah turned on him. "Stay out of this, Ash. This is between me and my fiancé." "Then you should have acted like her fiancé," Ash replied. Noah's face hardened. "You have been waiting for a chance to play the hero. Do not stand there and pretend this is about protecting her." "Stop," I said. Neither of them heard me at first. Noah kept defending himself, and Ash kept telling him that there was no defense for abandoning me after that phone call. As they argued, something inside me became perfectly clear. Noah was upset, but he still believed the most important problem in the room was that people were judging him. He wanted forgiveness before he had fully faced what he had done. He wanted to return me to our apartment, smooth over the damage, and continue the future we had planned as if love were something that could survive without trust. I looked down at my left hand. The engagement ring caught the hard hospital light. 2 weeks earlier, I had stared at it until my eyes filled with happy tears. I had imagined invitations, flowers, a small house, and perhaps a child one day. I had believed the ring turned all our promises into something solid. Now it felt like a tiny weight attached to a life I no longer recognized. My fingers were swollen. Removing it hurt. I twisted it slowly, biting the inside of my cheek as it scraped over my knuckle. Noah stopped arguing. "Emily, what are you doing?" I opened my palm. The ring lay in the center of it, bright, perfect, and suddenly meaningless. "There is nothing left to fix," I said. Then I held it out to him. That was the moment Noah finally understood that the accident had not only destroyed my car. It had destroyed the last excuse I had for staying with him. Chapter 1. 2 weeks before the accident, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. Noah Cooper and I had been together for exactly 4 years. We had lived together for 3 of them in a comfortable second-floor apartment with wide windows, uneven wooden floors, and a kitchen too narrow for 2 people unless they liked bumping into each other. We did, or at least we used to. We had met by accident in a coffee shop. I worked in marketing for a local home goods company, and he worked in sales for a regional software distributor. That morning, I had been balancing my laptop, my purse, and a cup with a loose lid when Noah turned too quickly and sent coffee down the front of my white blouse. He looked so horrified that I started laughing. He bought me another coffee, paid for the dry cleaning, and wrote his number on the receipt. I called him that evening. Our relationship had never been dramatic. That was one of the things I loved most about it. We paid bills, argued about where to order dinner, took Sunday walks, and fell asleep with our feet tangled together. No one knew how I took my coffee. I knew which client calls made him pace. He liked the breakfasts I cooked before work, especially when I cut strawberries into his oatmeal. He teased me about the postcards I mailed to my mother even though I called her twice a week. I thought our ordinary life was beautiful. On our 4th anniversary, Noah took me back to the coffee shop where we met. The place had changed owners, and the walls were painted a different color, but the corner table was still there. He ordered for both of us, then kept touching the inside pocket of his jacket. I noticed, but I was afraid to hope. After we finished our drinks, he asked me to walk with him to the little riverside park 2 blocks away. It was early fall. The leaves had just begun to turn, and the air smelled like water and cold earth. Noah stopped beneath a maple tree. "Emily," he said, and his voice shook. I remember smiling because I had never heard him nervous before. Noah could sell complicated software packages to skeptical executives without blinking. But standing in front of me, he looked almost boyish. Then he went down on one knee. The world narrowed to his face, the small velvet box, and the sound of my own breath catching. "4 years ago, you laughed when I ruined your shirt," he said. "You have made every day of my life better since then. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he finished asking. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and I cried against his shoulder. People nearby clapped. An older woman walking a terrier told us we were a beautiful couple. That night, I lay in bed beside him and held my hand up in the dark, watching the stone catch the streetlight through the blinds. We had talked about marriage before. We had discussed venues, seasons, budgets, even whether we wanted children. But the ring made everything feel real. I was not just a woman waiting for someday anymore. I was his fiancé. Soon, I thought, I would be his wife. Maybe later, a mother. I did not know that somewhere in town, a woman named Olivia Johnson had just come home. And within days, the man who had promised me forever would begin acting as if our entire life embarrassed him. Chapter 2. The phone call came the following Tuesday. Noah and I had finished dinner and were watching a movie on the couch. I was tucked against his side with my feet under a blanket, half paying attention to the screen and half scrolling through wedding ideas on my phone. His phone rang on the coffee table. "Mike," he said when he saw the name. "I haven't heard from him in months." He answered on speaker, without thinking about it. They exchanged a few jokes about work and an old high school coach. Then Mike said, "Did you hear Olivia's back?" Noah's entire body changed. His arm, which had been resting behind my shoulders, went rigid. His face emptied. For one strange second, he looked as if someone had opened a door to a room he had sealed years ago. "What?" he said. "Olivia Johnson. She moved back last weekend. I saw her brother downtown." Noah grabbed the phone and took it off speaker. "Hold on," he said, standing so quickly that my shoulder dropped against the couch cushion. He walked out of the living room and shut the bedroom door behind him. I sat there listening to the muffled rhythm of his voice for almost 30 minutes. I did not know who Olivia was. Noah and I had not grown up together, even though we had both spent most of our lives in the same area. We had met as adults, and over 4 years we had talked about our pasts openly. He knew about the college boyfriend who had cheated on me during spring break. I knew about the woman he had dated for 6 months after graduation and the coworker he had gone out with twice. But I had never heard Olivia's name. Not once. That fact alone might not have mattered. Everyone has people from the past who never come up. What frightened me was Noah's reaction. I replayed it while I waited. The sudden stillness, the sharpened attention, the way he had left the room as if the conversation belonged to a life I was not allowed to enter. When he finally returned, the movie credits were rolling. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine." He picked up his water and drank without looking at me. "Who's Olivia?" The glass stopped halfway to his mouth. "Someone from school." "A friend." "Not really." His tone said the conversation was over, but the tension in his face said it had barely begun. I tried to smile. Mike mentioned her and you disappeared for half an hour. I was just wondering. I didn't disappear. I took a call. In the bedroom with the door closed. He exhaled through his nose. Emily, don't start making something out of nothing. The words stung because I had not accused him of anything. I had asked one question. I'm not making anything out of it. I don't know who she is. Then trust me when I tell you she doesn't matter. He turned the television back on and began searching for another movie. I sat beside him, staring at his profile. If Olivia did not matter, I wondered, why had her name made him look like that? Chapter 3. I asked him again later that night. That was my first mistake, according to Noah. We were getting ready for bed. He stood at the bathroom sink brushing his teeth while I leaned against the doorframe, trying to sound calm. I don't want to fight, I said, but you were clearly upset. Did something happen between you and Olivia? He spit into the sink and stared at me through the mirror. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not. You asked, I answered. She was someone from high school, end of story. Then why did you leave the room? He threw the hand towel onto the counter. Because Mike and I were talking about people you don't know. I didn't think you wanted to listen to a list of old names. You looked shocked. So now you're analyzing my face. His irritation rose so quickly that I began questioning my own tone. Maybe I sounded accusing without realizing it. Maybe engagement had made me afraid of losing what I had just been promised. I'm trying to understand, I said. No, you're trying to create a problem. We have been engaged for 1 week, Emily, 1 week, and you're already acting possessive. Possessive? The word hit me harder than it should have. I stepped back. I asked about a woman whose name made you leave the room. Listen to yourself. He walked past me and got into bed. I remained in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. The engagement ring glittered when I lifted my hand to tuck my hair behind my ear. A week earlier, it had felt like proof of love. That night, it felt like evidence against me, as if wearing it meant I had become demanding. When I finally lay down, Noah turned his back. I whispered, "Good night." He did not answer. The next morning, I woke early and made breakfast anyway. Eggs, toast, sliced tomatoes. It was what I did when our apartment felt tense. Feeding someone was easier than finding the right words. Noah came into the kitchen, already dressed for work. I made coffee, I said. He poured it into a travel mug. Thanks. He did not touch the food. I watched him leave and told myself we had simply had a bad argument. Couples fought. Engagements created pressure. He would cool down, and we would laugh about my strange reaction to a name from high school. But that evening, he came home nearly 2 hours late. He did not call. He did not text. And when I asked where he had been, he looked at me with the exhausted contempt of a man already tired of explaining himself. Working, he said. I wanted to believe him. What frightened me was how badly I needed to. Chapter 4. The next few days felt like living in an apartment filled with invisible broken glass. Every conversation had sharp edges. Every question risked becoming an accusation. Noah moved through our home as if I were an obstacle he had to step around. On Wednesday, he came home late again. On Thursday, he spent most of dinner responding to messages with his phone tilted away from me. When I asked whether work was busy, he said, "Why? Are you tracking my schedule now?" I stopped asking. That was the beginning of a habit that would cost me more than I understood at the time. I stopped asking because I loved him. I stopped asking because I did not want to seem insecure. I stopped asking because every time he reacted with anger, I assumed I must have approached him badly. At work, I could analyze a failed campaign without taking it personally. I could tell a senior manager that a product launch needed to be delayed. I could stand in a conference room and defend a budget line by line. But with Noah, I became afraid of the smallest sentence. One evening, I sat in my car outside our building for 10 minutes before going inside. I practiced smiling in the rearview mirror. I told myself I would be easygoing, warm, normal. When I entered, Noah was on the couch scrolling through his phone. He locked the screen when he heard the door. "Hey," I said brightly. "Hey." I set down my bag. "How was your day?" "Fine." Mine was kind of crazy. We had to redo the entire holiday campaign because... Can we not do the work recap right now? He rubbed his forehead, as if my voice hurt. I went quiet. A week earlier, he would have listened. He might not have cared about marketing metrics, but he cared about me. Or I believed he did. That night, he fell asleep with his phone under his pillow. I lay beside him and stared at the ceiling. I wondered whether he had seen Olivia. Then I hated myself for wondering. I wanted to believe his coldness was temporary. I told myself the man I loved was still there and that patience would bring him back. So I said nothing. Chapter 5. Friday evening, Noah came home carrying a pizza box and a bottle of red wine. "Peace offering," he said. Relief rushed through me so fast that I nearly cried. "For what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "For us being weird all week." He kissed my forehead, and I leaned into him before I could stop myself. That small touch felt like water after days of thirst. We ate pizza at the coffee table and opened the wine. Noah told me a funny story about a client who had spent 10 minutes speaking while muted during a video call. I laughed too loudly. He put his feet in my lap. For a few hours, our apartment felt like home again. Neither of us apologized. I did not ask who Olivia was. He did not explain why her return had changed him. We simply placed a pleasant evening over the crack and pretended it had repaired the foundation. Later, he pulled me close in bed and told me he loved me. I believed him because I needed to. "We should start looking at dates," I whispered. "For the wedding. Unless you have another major event planned." He smiled, but something in it looked distracted. "Sure, soon." Soon. That word had once sounded hopeful. Now it sounded like a door being gently closed. Over the weekend, I tried to return to normal. I made pancakes. We cleaned the apartment. I showed him a photo of a small garden venue outside town. "Pretty," he said without looking for more than a second. On Sunday afternoon, I sat at the dining table working on the blanket I had started knitting for our couch. The yarn was a soft gray-green that matched the curtains. I had never been particularly skilled, but I liked making something slowly with my hands. I imagined us using it in winter, then taking it with us when we eventually bought a house. Noah sat across the room, staring at his phone. He scrolled up, paused, scrolled down, and enlarged photographs. I could not see the name at the top of the profile, but I saw flashes of a blonde woman in city restaurants, on rooftops, beside bright shop windows. "Who are you looking at?" I asked. His thumb froze. "Nobody." He closed the app. I looked down at the blanket in my lap and pulled the yarn too tight. One of the loops twisted out of shape. For the rest of the afternoon, I worked carefully around the mistake, trying to hide it in the pattern. I did not yet understand that I was doing the same thing with my relationship. Chapter 6. The following Saturday, Noah surprised me with dinner reservations. "Somewhere new," he said. "You wanted us to get out more." I was delighted. After a week of tension, the invitation felt like proof that I had overreacted. I dressed carefully in a dark green blouse he once told me made my eyes look brighter. I wore the engagement ring and caught myself smiling at it while I applied lipstick. The restaurant was a sleek new place near downtown, the kind that served small plates with ingredients listed in French. Noah usually hated restaurants like that. He preferred burgers, barbecue, or anything he could pronounce without asking the server. "Since when do you like this kind of food?" I teased as we sat down. "I can be adventurous." He checked the entrance while he said it. I noticed, but forced myself not to interpret it. For the first 20 minutes, dinner was pleasant. We shared an appetizer. Noah asked about my latest campaign. I began to relax. Then a woman's voice called his name. "Noah Cooper." His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. A blonde woman stood near the bar with 2 men. She was polished in a way that seemed effortless: cream coat, glossy hair, expensive-looking boots. Her smile widened as she approached. "I knew that was you," she said. Noah stood so quickly, he bumped the table. "Olivia, hey." There it was. The name that had entered our apartment and changed the temperature of every room. Olivia hugged him, not intimately, but familiarly. She held his shoulders for a second as she stepped back and looked him over. You look good, she said. Noah laughed in a nervous, breathless way I had never heard around me. She introduced the men with her. One was her brother, Daniel, whom Noah clearly knew. The other was Daniel's friend. They spoke for almost a full minute while I sat beside them, invisible. Noah did not look at me. He did not say my name. Finally, Daniel glanced down and extended his hand. Hi, I'm Daniel. Only then did Noah seem to remember I existed. Right, sorry. This is Emily, my girlfriend. My girlfriend. The word struck like a slap. I rose slowly and shook Daniel's hand. His fiancé, I corrected, holding up my left hand. We got engaged 2 weeks ago. Olivia's eyes moved to the ring. For the first time, her confident expression faltered. Then she smiled, a small, thoughtful smile that did not reach her eyes. Fiancé, she repeated. Wow, congratulations. Noah looked at me. I had expected embarrassment, maybe guilt. What I saw was anger. A cold, cutting flash of anger, as though I had revealed something private and humiliating. Olivia and the others returned to their table. Noah sat down. What was that? He asked quietly. What was what? Waving the ring in her face. I stared at him. You introduced me as your girlfriend. It was a slip. You forgot to introduce me at all. You're making a scene. I looked around. No one was watching us. The only scene existed in his guilt. Then I noticed where Olivia's table was positioned, directly across from ours. And I remembered Noah staring at the entrance. A thought arrived with such certainty that my stomach turned. Did you know she would be here? His jaw tightened. Don't be ridiculous. He refused dessert. We barely spoke during the drive home. I watched the streetlights move across his face and understood that he had not brought me to that restaurant to repair our relationship. He had brought me because he hoped to see her. The only part of the evening he had not planned was remembering that I was supposed to matter. Chapter 7. The argument began before we had taken off our coats. Tell me the truth, I said. Did you know Olivia would be there? Noah tossed his keys onto the counter. No. You kept watching the door. You don't even like that kind of restaurant. Maybe I wanted to do something nice for you. Apparently that was a mistake. You forgot I was your fiancé. I used the wrong word. It happens. Not 2 weeks after proposing. His face hardened. You embarrassed me. I almost laughed because the accusation was so absurd. I embarrassed you by saying we were engaged. By making it sound like you were marking territory. Olivia just came over to say hello. Who is she, really? I told you, someone from high school. Someone you stared at like the last 15 years disappeared. Silence filled the kitchen. Noah looked away first. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Fine, I had a crush on her. A crush? A stupid one, a long time ago. Piece by piece, the story came out. Olivia had been the girl everyone noticed. Cheerleader, homecoming queen, the center of every party. Noah had been smart but awkward, the boy who volunteered to help her study and then carried hope around because she smiled at him. He had asked her to a dance once. She had laughed gently and told him he was sweet. He spent years believing that if he became more confident, more successful, more impressive, she might finally see him. Were you together? I asked. No. That answer should have comforted me. Instead, it made everything worse. There had been no real relationship to end. No breakup, no betrayal, no ordinary disappointment. Olivia had remained perfect because she had never become human enough to disappoint him. She lived in the unfinished part of his imagination. Why didn't you ever tell me? He sat at the edge of the couch and rubbed his hands together. Because it was humiliating. I was pathetic. You weren't pathetic. You were young. You don't understand. I would have done anything for her. The sentence hung between us. Would have. Past tense. I tried to hold on to that. Noah reached for my hand. Emily, it was years ago. I love you. I proposed to you. Doesn't that prove where I am now? I looked at the ring. 2 hours earlier, he had forgotten what it meant when Olivia stood in front of him. Still, I nodded. Because love does not disappear the first time it is injured. Sometimes it becomes more desperate. Sometimes it begins working harder, as if effort can force another person to remember why they chose you. That night, Noah held me while I cried quietly into his chest. He told me Olivia was the past. I wanted so badly to believe I was the future. Chapter 8. On Sunday afternoon, Olivia called Noah. He was in the kitchen when his phone lit up. I saw her name before he turned it over. "Aren't you going to answer?" I asked. He studied my face, then picked up the phone. "It's probably nothing." He took the call in front of me this time, almost as if he wanted credit for transparency. Olivia had moved back without a job. She had spent several years in New York working in public relations, but the company had downsized. She asked whether Noah knew of any openings in sales or account management. "Of course," he said immediately. "Send me your resume, I'll make some calls." After they hung up, he spent the rest of the evening messaging former coworkers, friends, and clients. He opened his laptop at the dining table and rewrote sections of her resume. I sat across from him, with my own work untouched. "You really want to help her," I said. He did not look up. "She's an old friend who needs a job." "You said you weren't friends." "Do we have to do this again?" "No, I just noticed." Then stopped noticing everything like it's evidence. I went to bed alone. A week later, Olivia accepted a position at a company in the office complex next to Noah's. He announced it over dinner with the satisfaction of someone who had closed a major deal. "They loved her," he said. "She starts Monday." "That's quick." "She's talented." The admiration in his voice hurt more than it should have. On Monday, Noah left for work wearing the gray jacket I had bought him for his birthday. He changed shirts twice before leaving. On Tuesday, he mentioned that he and Olivia had grabbed lunch because she did not know the area anymore. On Wednesday, they ate together again. By Friday, lunch with Olivia had become something he did not bother explaining. I tried to be reasonable. Their offices were near each other. They had history. She was new and rebuilding her life. But I also knew that Noah had once organized his entire self-worth around being noticed by her. Now she was noticing him. Every day. And each evening, he returned home carrying a little less warmth for me. Chapter 9. The change was gradual enough that I could deny it at first. Noah began correcting the way I dressed. He told me one of my favorite cardigans looked too safe. He suggested I straighten my hair because Olivia said waves could look messy in professional settings. When I packed leftovers for his lunch, he joked that he was not a child going to school. At first, I laughed with him. Then I realized he was not laughing with me. He was reporting Olivia's opinions and using them to dismantle me. One evening, I was in the hallway putting away laundry when I heard Noah talking to friends in the living room. Mike and Ash had stopped by to watch a game. I had made nachos and gone to the bedroom to finish a presentation. "She still makes you breakfast every morning?" Mike asked. "Every morning," Noah said, and the others laughed lightly. I smiled at first. I assumed he was bragging. Then he continued. "She cuts fruit and everything. It's like living with somebody's grandmother." My hand froze around a folded towel. "That's actually kind of nice," Ash said. "You haven't seen the blanket," Noah replied. "She's knitting a blanket for the couch." "Still sounds nice," Ash said. "Olivia says it's painfully provincial." Noah laughed. "And Emily mails postcards to her mom," he added. "Actual postcards, like phones haven't been invented." Ash's voice changed. "Your fiancé cooks for you, makes your apartment feel like a home, and loves her mother. What exactly is the joke?" There was a pause. Noah snorted. "Relax. Olivia just thinks Emily needs to modernize a little. She lived in New York. She sees how small town all this looks." Small town. Provincial. The words cut deeper, because Noah used to love those things. He used to steal strawberries from the cutting board while I made breakfast. He had chosen the yarn color for the blanket. He used to remind me to buy postcards when we traveled because my mother saved everyone. Nothing about me had changed. Only the audience he wanted to impress. I backed into the bedroom before anyone saw me. I sat on the edge of the bed with the folded towel in my lap and pressed my fist against my mouth. I did not cry loudly. I had already learned that visible pain would be used as proof that I was dramatic. A few minutes later, Ash knocked on the open door. "You okay?" he asked. I looked up too quickly. "Fine." His eyes moved to my face, then to the living room. He knew I had heard. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I think the blanket is great." After he left, I touched the unfinished stitches resting in a basket beside the dresser. For the first time, I considered throwing the whole thing away. Chapter 10. That night, after Noah's friends left, I asked him to sit down. My voice shook, but I forced myself to continue. "I heard what you said about me." He leaned back against the couch. "What are you talking about?" "The breakfast, the blanket, the postcards. You were making fun of me." "Oh, come on, we were joking." "It didn't feel like a joke." "Because you take everything personally." I stared at him. It was personal, it was about me. He stood and began collecting empty bottles from the coffee table. "This is exactly what Olivia means," he said. "What does Olivia mean?" "That you're too sensitive. She made one comment about the blanket, and now you're acting like she attacked your character." "Why are you discussing me with her?" "Because she notices things. She has lived outside this town. She has perspective." "And I don't." He sighed. "You're twisting my words." I followed him into the kitchen. "Noah, I need you to be honest with me. If you don't love me anymore, say it. We should not get married because we have history or because you already bought a ring." He turned sharply. "I never said I don't love you." "Then why do I feel like you resent everything about me?" "Because you're insecure." There it was, the explanation for every wound. I was insecure when he hid conversations. I was insecure when he forgot our engagement. I was insecure when he spent every lunch with the woman he once worshipped. I was insecure when he mocked me using her words. "I'm asking you to create some distance from Olivia," I said. "Not to be cruel, not to abandon her. Just stop seeing her every day outside work. Stop talking to her about our relationship." His eyes narrowed. "You don't get to control who I talk to." "I'm not trying to control you. I'm telling you this is hurting me." "Your jealousy is hurting you, not Olivia." He spoke calmly, confidently, almost kindly. That made it worse. Anger I could have resisted. Certainty made me doubt myself. By the end of the conversation, I was apologizing for being emotional. Noah kissed my forehead and told me everything would be fine if I stopped looking for reasons to be upset. I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. I tried to identify the unreasonable woman he described. All I saw was someone tired, frightened, and increasingly ashamed of needing basic kindness from the man she planned to marry. Chapter 11. Olivia invited us both to her birthday party. The invitation arrived in a group message on Monday. She was hosting drinks and dinner at a rooftop bar on Friday after work. The message was cheerful and inclusive, decorated with champagne emojis. Noah showed me his phone, as if her including me proved every fear I had was ridiculous. "See," he said, "she wants you there." I read the message twice. "Do you want me there?" He looked annoyed. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you act differently around her." "We are not doing this again." I agreed to go. Part of me hoped meeting Olivia in a normal setting would break the spell. Maybe I would discover that she was not calculating at all. Maybe Noah's behavior was entirely about old insecurity, and once I stopped treating her like a threat, he would stop acting defensive. I bought Olivia a candle from a local shop and a card. Noah laughed when he saw it. "A candle? You said she likes expensive home stuff." "She does, but this is kind of." He stopped. "Provincial?" I asked. His face tightened. I was going to say simple. I placed the gift in a bag anyway. Friday was gray and rainy. I wore a black dress to work and kept the gift beneath my desk. Noah planned to go directly from his office because the rooftop bar was nearby. I would meet him there. At 4:30, he texted, "Olivia reserved the back section. Don't be late." I stared at the message. There was no heart, no drive safe, no excitement that his fiancé was joining him. Just don't be late. I left the office at 5. Traffic crawled. Rain streaked the windshield and headlights blurred against the wet road. At an intersection less than 3 miles from the bar, the light turned green. I moved forward. A pickup truck ran the red light from my left. I remember the horn. I remember white headlights filling the driver's side window. Then metal screamed. The impact spun my car across the intersection. My shoulder slammed against the door. The airbag exploded into my face, filling the car with chemical dust. Glass shattered somewhere behind me. When the car stopped, everything became strangely quiet. Rain tapped through a broken window. My ears rang. I tasted blood. For several seconds, I could not understand why my hand would not open. Then pain rushed through my wrist and up my arm. I tried to breathe and felt something sharp beneath my ribs. People were shouting outside. Someone told me not to move. My phone lay on the floor near the passenger seat. I reached for it with shaking fingers. I did not call an ambulance first. I called Noah. Because even after everything, when I was terrified, my body still believed he was home. Chapter 12. Noah answered on the fourth ring. Music and laughter filled the background. "Where are you?" he asked. "Everyone's here." I tried to speak, but my voice came out thin. "I had an accident." There was a pause. "What kind of accident?" "A truck hit me. I'm at the intersection near Grant and Willow. I think my wrist is hurt. I know I'm scared." Someone outside pulled at the passenger door. A man told me the ambulance was coming. Noah exhaled loudly into the phone. "If you were in a serious accident, why are you calling me? Call 911. I stared through the cracked windshield. "Someone already did. I need you." Laughter rose behind him. I heard Olivia's voice, though I could not make out the words. Then Noah laughed too, not fully but enough. "Emily, are you seriously trying to get me to leave Olivia's party?" For a moment, the physical pain disappeared beneath disbelief. "What?" "You have been upset about this party all week. Now, 30 minutes after it starts, you suddenly have an accident." "Noah, my car is wrecked." "Then send a picture." I could not process the request. "I can't, my hand." "Exactly." Olivia said something nearby. There was another burst of laughter. Noah lowered his voice. "This is not healthy. If you need help, call an ambulance. I'm not rewarding this behavior." "Please," I whispered. The word left me before pride could stop it. "Please come." "I am not leaving because you're jealous." He ended the call. I looked at the dark phone screen in my hand. A firefighter opened the passenger door and asked my name. I answered automatically. "Is there someone we can call?" he asked. I almost said no. Then headlights slowed beyond the line of emergency vehicles. A familiar car pulled to the curb. Ash stepped out, still wearing work clothes, and ran through the rain toward the wreck. He had been driving home when he recognized my car. "Emily," he called. The relief I felt at hearing my name spoken with fear nearly broke me. They would not let him close until I was removed from the car. He stood behind the paramedics, rain soaking his hair and shirt, his face pale. "I'm here," he kept saying. "I'm right here." As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I clutched the unopened birthday gift against my chest. Someone must have found it on the floor and placed it beside me. The paper bag was crushed and wet. The candle inside was broken. I began to cry then, not because of the pain, not because of the car, but because the gift seemed like the perfect symbol of everything I had been doing. I had been carrying kindness toward a woman who mocked me. I had been driving toward a man who did not believe my fear. And I had nearly died trying not to be late for people who would not leave a party for me. Chapter 13. Ash followed the ambulance to the hospital. I drifted in and out while doctors examined me. I had a concussion, a sprained wrist, 2 cracked ribs, a cut near my hairline, and bruising that would darken over the next several days. The injuries were painful but not life-threatening. The phrase "not life-threatening" became the excuse Noah would later cling to. As if love is only required when death is certain. Ash sat beside my bed after the scans. He called my mother and explained what happened in a calm voice. He found a charger for my phone. He asked a nurse for an extra blanket when he saw me shivering. "Noah," I asked once. Ash's jaw tightened. I called him. "Is he coming?" "He thinks." He stopped. "Tell me." Ash looked at me with the expression of someone choosing between honesty and mercy. He thinks you planned this to get him away from the party. I closed my eyes. Did you tell him you saw the car? Yes. And? Ash stood and walked a few steps away. He said you probably made it look worse than it was. My throat tightened. Call him again, I whispered. Emily. Please, put it on speaker. Ash did not want to, but he respected the request. Noah answered quickly this time. What? She's in the hospital, Ash said. The doctors are treating her for a concussion and cracked ribs. Her car is destroyed. You need to come. She told you to say that. Ash's face changed. Noah, I saw the accident scene. I watched them cut part of the door open. There was a pause. Music still played behind him. Then Noah said, she has been trying to ruin this night for days. Ash stared at the phone. This is your fiancé. And she is jealous of Olivia. Your fiancé was hit by a truck. She's good at getting people on her side. She fooled you, and apparently she fooled the doctors. Don't waste your whole night on her performance. Ash ended the call. The silence afterward was enormous. He turned away, but not before I saw anger and pity in his face. Pity was unbearable. I had spent weeks defending Noah to myself, and now his cruelty was sitting in the room with us, undeniable. I'm sorry, Ash said. I looked at the engagement ring. Don't be, I whispered. You didn't say it. That was when something inside me began to separate from Noah. Not all at once. Love is not a light switch. But a thread snapped. Then another. By the time he finally arrived, there was almost nothing left holding me to him except history. Chapter 14. Noah arrived nearly 4 hours after the accident. By then, Olivia's party would have been winding down. He entered the room quickly, his face pale and his breathing uneven. The sight of my wrist brace, the bandage near my hairline, and the bruising across my shoulder stopped him a few feet inside the doorway. Oh my God, he whispered. For one brief second, I saw real fear in his face. Then he pulled himself together and moved toward the bed, as if determination could repair what fear had failed to prevent. Emily, I am so sorry, he said. I misunderstood. I should have come immediately. But you are going to be okay, and we are going to fix this. Ash stood from the chair beside me. Noah noticed him and frowned. Can you give us a minute? Ash looked at me instead of answering. I shook my head. He can stay. Noah's jaw tightened, but he sat beside the bed. Fine, he said. I know you are angry. You have every right to be. I made a terrible mistake, but one terrible mistake does not erase 4 years. We can go home tomorrow, talk this through, and start over. He spoke as though the ending had already been negotiated without me. As though my injuries were the worst part of the night, and not the clarity they had given me. I called you, I said. I know. No, Noah, listen to me. I called you from a wrecked car. I told you a truck had hit me. I told you I was scared and you did not believe me. His eyes dropped. The call was confusing. There was noise and you sounded panicked. Things between us have been tense, and Olivia thought I was lying, I said. And because she laughed, you laughed too. I did not laugh. You accused me of staging an accident to take you away from her birthday party. I was frustrated. The timing seemed strange. I admitted I was wrong. You did not believe Ash when he told you he had seen my car. You did not believe the doctors. You told him not to waste his night on me. Noah rubbed both hands over his face. I did not understand how serious it was. Why did it have to be serious before I deserved your concern? The room went still. Ash stepped forward, his voice controlled but firm. It should not have mattered whether she had cracked ribs or a bruise, he said. A loving man does not hear that the woman he plans to marry has been in an accident and decides she is manipulating him. He goes to her. What you did was unacceptable. Noah turned sharply. I did not ask for your opinion. Emily should never have needed me here in the first place. Stay out of our relationship, Ash. You abandoned her. Someone had to show up. Noah stood. You think because you found her car and sat beside her bed, you get to tell me how to love my fiancé. No, Ash said. I think the way you treated her proves you were not loving her at all. Noah took a step toward him. You have always wanted her to see you as the better man. This is not about me. Of course it is. You have been waiting for a chance to turn her against me. Their voices rose, filling the room that should have been quiet. I watched Noah defend his pride with more urgency than he had shown when I called him from the wreck. He was upset. I could see that. He regretted being wrong, and he was frightened by the possibility of losing me. But even then, he still believed he could explain enough, apologize enough, and argue loudly enough to put our life back where he wanted it. He did not understand that love was not destroyed by the truck. It had been destroyed by the choice he made after my phone rang in his hand. "Stop," I said. They both turned toward me. I looked at Noah. "You keep saying we can fix this." "We can," he said immediately. "Emily, please, I know I failed you tonight, but I love you. Come home with me. Give me one chance to make it right." I turned the engagement ring around my swollen finger. "You did not fail me only tonight," I said. "Tonight simply made everything else impossible to deny." His expression changed. "What are you saying?" I began to remove the ring. Pain shot through my injured wrist, and the band around my swollen knuckle resisted. I kept pulling until it came free. Noah stared at my hand. "Emily, do not do this while you are hurt and emotional." Even then, he tried to turn my certainty into a symptom. "I am hurt," I said. "I am emotional, and I have never been more certain." I held the ring out to him. "I loved you enough to keep shrinking while you compared me to Olivia. I loved you enough to question my own mind every time you called me jealous. But I will not marry a man who needs visible injuries before he believes my pain." I said I was sorry. "You are sorry the accident proved you wrong. You still think this is an argument you can win." His face crumpled. 4 years, Emily. You are ending 4 years over one mistake." "No, I am ending it because this one night showed me what all the other choices meant." I placed the ring in his palm and closed his fingers around it. For a moment, neither of us moved. Part of me still remembered the man who had once made me laugh in a coffee shop, the man who had held me through bad days and promised me a future. Letting him go felt like tearing something living out of my chest. But I did not reach for him. "Please leave," I said. Noah looked at Ash, then back at me. This time, there was no argument left that could return the ring to my hand. He walked out carrying it. I waited until the door closed before the grief broke through me. Ash returned to the chair, but did not touch me until I reached for his hand. He sat beside me through the night, while I mourned the future I had believed was mine. Chapter 15. I was discharged the next afternoon. My mother wanted to drive in immediately, but she lived several hours away and had recently had knee surgery. Ash called his sister, Rachel, who lived across town and had a spare bedroom. "You can stay with me as long as you need," Rachel said before I could protest. "No explanations required." Noah sent 32 messages during my first night there. Some were apologies. Some were excuses. Some were accusations disguised as pain. I made a mistake. "You know I love you." Olivia got in my head. "You're throwing away 4 years. Ash is taking advantage of this. We can fix it if you stop punishing me." That final message told me nothing had changed. Even his apology required me to become the problem again. I turned off my phone. 2 days later, Ash and Rachel helped me return to the apartment for my belongings. Noah was at work. I had a key, but my hand shook as I unlocked the door. Everything looked exactly the same. The coffee mugs we bought on vacation stood beside the sink. Our shoes were mixed together near the entrance. Wedding brochures covered one end of the dining table. For a moment, grief stole my breath. The apartment was not only where Noah hurt me. It was where he had once danced badly while cooking pasta, where we had celebrated promotions, where we had stayed awake during thunderstorms and talked about names for children we might have someday. Leaving meant accepting that good memories do not make a harmful future safe. Rachel packed the bathroom. Ash carried boxes. I moved slowly because of my ribs. In the bedroom, I found the unfinished blanket in its basket. I lifted it with my good hand. "Do you want to take that?" Rachel asked gently. I almost said no. Then I remembered Noah's laughter, Olivia's word, provincial. I folded the blanket carefully and placed it in a box. "Yes," I said, "it's mine." Noah returned before we finished. He stood in the doorway, staring at the boxes. You're actually leaving? Yes. Emily, please. I cut Olivia off. I told her we can't have lunch anymore. The desperation in his voice might have moved me once. You should have protected our relationship because you valued it, I said, not because losing it became uncomfortable. He looked at Ash, and you're just waiting to move in. Ash set down the box he was holding. I'm helping a friend who was injured, he said. You should try it sometime. Noah's face reddened. I stepped between them. This is not about Ash. It is not even about Olivia. It is about who you chose to become when you thought impressing her mattered more than respecting me. I carried the box with the blanket out of the apartment myself. It hurt. I did it anyway. Chapter 16. Olivia lost interest in Noah almost immediately after I left. I did not learn that from him. I learned it from Mike, who called 3 weeks later to apologize for laughing during the conversation about my breakfasts. I should have said more, he told me. Ash did, I didn't, I'm sorry. I accepted the apology because it was honest and did not ask me to erase what happened. Then Mike told me Noah had tried to turn his lunches with Olivia into dates. She declined. Apparently, Olivia had enjoyed being important enough to create tension between us. She liked the private jokes, the comparisons, the proof that Noah would rearrange his life when she called. But once I was gone, there was no competition to win. She told him she never promised anything, Mike said. She said he misunderstood. The old version of me might have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. Olivia had been cruel, but she had not made vows to me. Noah had. He was the one who carried her opinions into our home. He was the one who laughed. He was the one who heard fear in my voice and chose suspicion, because suspicion allowed him to stay where he wanted to be. Noah came to Rachel's house once. I watched from the front window as he stood on the porch holding flowers. Rachel opened the door but did not let him inside. Emily doesn't want to see you, she said. I need 5 minutes. She needed you for 5 minutes on the side of the road. He left the flowers on the porch. I did not bring them inside. For several months, healing was not dramatic. It was paperwork, physical therapy, insurance calls, and waking from dreams where headlights filled my window. It was learning to drive again. It was moving into a small studio with a radiator that clanged at night and a view of a brick wall. It was also discovering how much space existed when I no longer had to defend every feeling. I finished the blanket. The final rows were uneven because my wrist still ached, but I refused to undo them. I placed it across the back of my second-hand couch. On Sunday mornings, I made breakfast for myself. Sometimes Ash and Rachel came over. Ash always washed the dishes. He never mocked the sliced fruit. He ate every piece. Chapter 17. Ash and I did not fall in love in the hospital. I think that matters. Pain can make gratitude feel like romance, and I refused to build another future on something I had not examined carefully. Ash seemed to understand that without being told. For months, he was simply present. He drove me to physical therapy when Rachel was working. He helped me test used cars without once making a joke when I panicked during a test drive. He sent me a message on the first heavy rain after the accident. Roads are bad. No pressure, but I can pick you up. He never asked for anything in return. When I finally bought a small blue car, he stood in the dealership parking lot and clapped as I drove one careful circle around the building. You look terrified, he said when I stopped. I am. You did it anyway. That became the way he saw me, not as fragile, but as brave while afraid. Nearly a year after the breakup, Ash asked me to dinner. Not while I was staying with his sister. Not while I depended on him for rides. Not while my grief was still an open wound. He asked when my life was mine again. This is a date, he said, standing outside my studio with his hands in his pockets. But if you say no, I am still your friend. Nothing changes. I said yes. Our relationship grew slowly. There were no grand declarations in the beginning. There were long walks, shared groceries, and conversations that did not turn into trials. When I disagreed with him, he listened for meaning instead of ammunition. The first time he saw the finished blanket on my couch, he ran his hand over the uneven stitches. You kept it, he said. I almost didn't. I'm glad you did. Noah thought it was embarrassing. Ash looked genuinely confused. Why? Because it was old-fashioned, provincial. He pulled the blanket over both of us. Then provincial is warm, he said. I laughed so hard I cried. 2 years after our first date, Ash proposed in my kitchen while I was making pancakes. There was no crowd, no carefully chosen park, no speech polished for an audience. He stood beside the stove, took my flour-covered hand and said, I love the life we have on ordinary Tuesdays. I want all of them. Will you marry me? I looked at the man who had seen me bleeding, grieving, rebuilding, and laughing again. Then I looked at the breakfast on the counter, the postcards waiting to be mailed to my mother, and the blanket folded over the chair. This time, the life around the ring already felt safe. Yes, I said. And I meant yes to him, not to a fantasy, not to a rescue, not to the fear of being alone. To him. Epilogue. Our wedding was small. Rachel stood beside me. My mother cried before the ceremony even began. Mike came and quietly told me Ash had been in love with me for a long time, but had refused to say anything while I was vulnerable. He said you deserved to choose him with a clear heart, Mike told me. That knowledge made me love Ash even more. We were married in a garden behind a restored old house. There were no extravagant decorations, only white flowers, warm lights, and the people who had shown up for us in real life. I mailed my mother a postcard from our honeymoon. Ash chose it. Years have passed since the night of the accident. The scar near my hairline has faded. My wrist aches before storms. I still feel a flash of fear sometimes when a truck enters an intersection too quickly, but fear no longer controls the road ahead of me. Noah sent one final email after hearing about our engagement. He wrote that losing me forced him to understand what he had done. He admitted he had not loved Olivia as a person. He had loved what her attention made him feel about himself. When she returned, he began treating our life as ordinary because he wanted to prove to her that he was no longer the awkward boy she had overlooked. He said the cruelest thing was that our ordinary life had been the best thing he ever had. I believed him. I did not answer. Forgiveness, for me, did not mean reopening the door. It meant I no longer needed him to suffer in order to validate what I survived. Ash and I eventually bought a modest house with a wide kitchen and a deep front porch. The couch sits near the window, and the gray-green blanket is still folded across the back. It has loose threads and uneven rows. It is not fashionable. It is loved. On Saturday mornings, I make breakfast. Ash cuts the fruit while I stand at the stove. Sometimes he packs leftovers for lunch. Sometimes he buys postcards for my mother before I remember we need them. One winter morning, I found him asleep on the couch beneath the blanket, our little daughter curled against his chest. She was holding one of the tassels in her fist. I stood in the doorway and watched them breathe. For a second, I thought about the woman I had been in that hospital room, bruised, terrified, and convinced the future had been destroyed. She could not have imagined this. She thought returning the ring meant losing everything. She did not know she was making room. Noah once taught me to feel ashamed of the love I gave through small things. He made tenderness sound unsophisticated and loyalty sound needy. For a while, I believed him. Now I know better. A real home is built from those small things. Breakfast made before work. A hand held in a hospital room. A ride offered in the rain. A postcard mailed for no reason, except that someone will smile when it arrives. A blanket made one imperfect row at a time. The right person does not laugh at the way you love. The right person recognizes it as shelter. That morning, Ash opened his eyes and smiled at me. "Come here," he whispered, careful not to wake our daughter. I crossed the room and sat beside them. He lifted one edge of the blanket, and I slipped underneath. Outside, snow fell over the porch and the quiet street. Inside, I was warm. Not because I had won. Not because Noah had lost. Because I had finally built a life where my heart did not have to beg to be believed.